Welcome to the weekly Roost Open Mic. We do this for you folks. MSPs asked us to show you what's new on the platform, what bugs have been fixed, and to do a little R&D or rob and duplicate automation ideas from your MSP peers. Just a few reminders. This call is a highly technical call. So if you're a decision maker and you're not making workflows, feel free to sit here and learn. But this is also a safe place for the folks who are actually building automations to learn from other MSPs and what they're doing. If you're using Discord and interacting with us, please make sure that you either use a thread or tag us. We are monitoring many different channels at once. And if you're struggling to automate and you've never asked a question, that's probably why. Our best automators have all had questions. So ask in your private channel if you don't want to participate publicly, or ask in the coop and see if your MSP peers want to chime in on your question. Make sure to add time savings. And now I'm going to pass it over to Ash. What's up?
Thanks, Aaron. All right. So if you guys remember last week, Adam enjoyed sharing his birthday so much that he agreed to do it again. So happy birthday, JP. We'll be hearing a little bit more from him later because we do have some people that are caught up in some travel. So he will be our Danial today, which is a big honor for all of us. But first, we're going to jump over to Nick.
Thanks, Ash. I'll go ahead and start by sharing my screen here, and we'll talk about some updates from this week. All right. We've got a couple new features, small features, and a huge list of bug fixes and chores that we've gone through. Kudos to the development team. We've been pushing for more reviews and getting things out that have been sitting for a little bit. Additionally, I want to mention that the engineering team has added 15 new people in the last quarter or so. Those people are onboarding, includes all areas of engineering, QA, site reliability, data engineering, full stack engineers, front end engineers, and we are adding people to be able to fix bugs faster and build more features. So I'm expecting that in the next couple of months here, as people ramp up and become even more productive, we'll start to see lots of very large lists like this for fixes and improvements. But let's talk about some of these today. Couple small features here. Added the ability for org variables to be used in trigger criteria. We added a list forms action with granular permissions. We did some things here on bug fixes and chores. We are preventing copy and pasting of sub-workflows between orgs that contain actions that don't exist in the target org. This would previously create a problem for your workflows where the workflow would no longer load if you copy pasted a sub-workflow that contained actions that didn't exist in the target organization that you pasted it into. So now we'll throw an error and warn the users when that happens. We fixed some column pinning for data tables in app platform, fixed a problem with list workflow executions, time savings. To make the updated app field required, this allows us to bound the time savings portion of the query. Otherwise, the query could time out and not return the data that you're expecting. We auto-focus the search bar for the new org picker. The new org picker is available to staff. We're just doing some internal review right now, and we will make it available to all of you very soon. One of the things that we noticed in our review, though, was that we weren't auto-focusing the search bar, and that caused extra clicks for users trying to switch between orgs. We fixed routing for custom page names that start with reserved routes in app platform. So that issue's been resolved. We automatically set the value for forms dropdowns when users use the type ahead search in dynamic dropdowns in forms. Previously, it was requiring you to actually click after you had done a search. Now it will automatically select it for you, removing an extra click there. Fixed the app platform view permission to include site themes. We fixed front-end crashing on certain GitHub integration actions. We added some additional feature flag checks for multiplayer workflows, which are also in staff review and available for staff on production right now. So that will be coming out very soon. We fixed a problem with falsy Boolean handling, I think pertaining particularly to Jinja in use of certain Rewst forms in places. We made it more consistent with what users would expect. So that's been resolved. We're surfacing errors in webhook trigger testing that would cause a workflow to not start, but unrelated to the filters that you were applying. So if you were using the trigger testing, you were sending a webhook, it was meeting the criteria, it was saying it was valid, but then the workflow would still not kick off due to something like an additional security check, checking the origin of the webhook sender to make sure it's coming from where we expect, like data or ConnectWise or something like that. We're now surfacing those errors in the trigger tester. So if you're testing a trigger and the filter is valid, but the workflow would not kick off for another security-based reason, we're now surfacing that reason to let users know. Fixed a bug preventing workflow canvas from freezing when searching for actions in some cases. We fixed a core send mail action to allow full email addresses. We're only allowed to send from Rewst domains that we control. So what we do is we will truncate the full, split the domain, split the email address, use on the @ symbol, and apply the Rewst domain in those cases. We've updated pagination for DNS filter to fetch up to 20,000 results. We've added missing enum import for forms to validate server-side checks. This is a problem that was previously causing errors when loading in forms that were embedded in other places in some cases. We fixed a bug with Rewst template action failing when the template was selected from the dropdown instead of using a template ID. Fixed handling of required fields in custom integrations v2. We added view permission on forms to allow showing form links to those users, similar to the one above, making sure that users who have the view permission can actually view everything that they should be able to see. Removed span tag from Jinja rendering and app platform HTML components. This was actually something that was brought up on this call a week or two ago when you were using Jinja to render data inside an HTML container in app platform. It was injecting an extra span tag that was breaking CSS for some folks. We were able to remove that extra span tag injection. Updated the DNS filter logo and setup instructions, fixed a bug with generic HTTP actions to account for null header parameter, fixed permission settings page to show the display name of the custom roles that have been created instead of the ID, fixed an enum entry for custom integrations v2, pre-fill crate description with a template to avoid the creation of crates that have empty descriptions. We'll now at least provide a default template for our staff to have access to there. We made domain a required field for Synix AU. We improved OpenAI parsing for OpenAPI parsing for custom integrations v2. We made trigger type immutable. So if you have an existing trigger and you go to edit that trigger type, you'll no longer be able to do that. This was causing problems in our backend where the trigger was already set on a number of organizations, and then changing the trigger type wasn't applying, and the previous trigger type was still triggering for those organizations. So what we've done here is we've made that field immutable. If you want a different trigger, you'll want to create a new trigger and delete the existing one. We fixed a bug where form submissions were not checking if the underlying trigger was disabled. Fixed a bug where soft deleted orgs were still being included in workflow triggers. Did some padding on drop-down forms for dynamic fields to be consistent with static fields. We improved the validation error message on permissions configuration, where at least one role and one org are required. The message existed, but we made it more prominent. Fixed a broken setup link for Kaseya BMS, set the default managing org ID to the current org ID when creating a new org. Fixed a bug with MSP or Microsoft CSP client mapping in the reauth logic to refresh Azure tokens. So if you had like created CSP and then went and edited and changed your CSP, reconfigured it, it wasn't refreshing Azure tokens in that case. It will now. We fixed a bug where integrations were not being automatically added to new orgs. Those are the default integrations that come with every new org that need to be installed. Things like the Roost core integration comes to mind. And fixed a couple additional bugs with Open API parsing custom integrations v2 that looks like a duplicate. Added authorization token refresh functionality to custom integrations v2. So similar to how we refresh the authentication tokens for all of our other homegrown integrations, we've added that functionality to custom integrations v2 so that the tokens always remain valid and fresh. And fixed a bug where the list
stuff, right?
organization's action was timing out for orgs that manage a large number of orgs. Some things currently coming up. We've made some progress on some of these. New org picker is available to staff, should be launching very soon to all customers. Multiplayer workflow is similar, enabled for all staff. We're just doing some final review there. Bitdefender, Granular Forms, IT Portal, Cynics, Australia Cove, and GitHub still waiting a little bit of QA attention. And then we've moved webhook, webroot triggers, and JSON RPC base client. The development is complete for those, and those are now in code review. Huge number of updates this week. Does anybody have any questions for me on any of these? All right, I'm super excited about the progress we made. And like I said, look forward to us shipping a lot more things in the coming months. Thank you all very much. Back to you, Ash.
Thank you, Nick. All right, so now we are going to jump over to JP, who is our Daniel for the marketplace updates this week.
Oh, wow, that's exciting. All right. All right. So we had a few new workflows for ticket creation and updating. These are currently not in any existing workflows. These are going to be only in net new workflows. So we're going to see some new utility workflows like this being created over the next few weeks, and they're going to be implemented in all of our new stuff coming out of the marketplace team. In bug fixes, we have some fixes for the set calendar permissions crate, basically just some error handling. And then for the uninstall software crate, we have a few bug fixes as well. There are a few existing coming soon items, and a lot of our efforts over the past few weeks have been focused on refactoring of some of our large existing crates. So that's it for our team.
Thank you very much, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right, so now we are going to go over to Brandon. I think you made it home, right?
I did. I am still having to deal with Teams in browser though, so that's, there's always a challenge. All right, let's share my screen here. Screen. Wait, hold on. Wait. Share window, rather. Let's do that. Hold on. Sorry, folks. Teams is doing what Teams does best. And now it's just not working. Give me a sec. I might have to rejoin. Give me 1 second. See if this works.
How many hats was that while he's gone? You can guess while he's away.
4.
You never know what's hiding underneath. That's where I feel like I get caught.
We just got our shipment of hats in, proudly wearing them. One in every color of the rainbow.
Filling in for Brandon.
Oh, you know, I don't want him to feel lonely out there.
You should
We
make a
should have-
challenge. Were you
Like
thinking
on
the
the
same
swag
thing?
store where it's just like a hat, but it looks like it's several hats.
I snagged a few of those hats for him at the conference.
She did. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys. Let me see if this works. There we go. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so let's get started. We'll go through this fairly quickly. So for my game tip of the week, I just started Xenogears for the first time ever. It's a PS1 RPG by Squaresoft. About 6 hours in, and I'm already pretty blown away by this one. So if anybody else has played Xenogears, let me know what you think in the chat, because it's pretty awesome so far, and I'm looking forward to doing something with that in the future. Otherwise, Lucas wants to remind everyone that Factorio Space Age is coming on the 21st. So the question for you is, should you ignore Zelda and the slew of October RPGs for this one? I'm not sure.
Brian,
You tell me.
Brandon, I think your screen is a little bit blurry. Can you try to share again?
Is it? Okay. Teams is doing it for me today.
I was
I
like,
found my-
who put
I
on
found-
the blackout mode? It is
you
a
see
little
it
bit
now?
blurry. Yeah,
it
I wonder
still
what that
blurry?
is.
Brandon, try killing your camera to cut down on your outgoing bandwidth.
Okay, everybody
Very
make a
smart.
guess. Make a guess now about my hats. Too many hats to render. All right, here we go. Okay, how are we doing? Oops, that was not what I wanted to do. This is fun today. All right, can everybody see this? Is it still blurry?
It is, but you
Try my other glasses.
we'll see whether it gets better. You can
Okay,
talk through it and we'll share the link in chat.
just listen,
people can
listen to
follow
my
along.
voice. Listen to my voice, yes. Okay, all right, we'll do our quick shout outs here. Shout outs to Kat, Aaron, Joshua, Alexander, Naveen, Andrew, and Owen for taking the certification and getting the Foundations Certified Rooster badge. You should get that in Discord and get access to our not so super secret Discord channel. Otherwise, for those of you going through trainings or if you have any questions while you're implementing, check out our CluckU Discord channel as per the usual. Otherwise, you can sign up for office hours where you can get some time with the legendary Eddie Chow if you'd like to ask some questions for Eddie. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and jump down here. We have some upcoming news for the Clean Automation certification coming soon, so we'll keep you updated on that. And otherwise, we have some updates to our pages here. It looks like, I hope you guys can see this, someone added a few things here. One of the notes says, "Happy birthday, Adam." What? Happy birthday, Adam. Okay, all right, well, we have something going on there. It's probably a workflow. And then something about folders coming. Looks like we got something going on there as well. So, all right, there's that. Hopefully you guys can see that. Otherwise, some quick updates to the Kaseya VSAX integration setup page. We added a notice of disabled forms still functioning, and we have our open mic from last week added. So that's all we have for this week. I want to hear how many hats I have in the chat from you guys, and otherwise I'm going to throw it back to you, Ash.
Thank you, Brandon. All right, for our first demo, we are going to have Dustin.
Oh, let me share
Hello.
my screen.
You all see that?
Yes, very unblurry.
Good. All right. So if any of you have ScreenConnect, you've probably encountered the issue of where you have sent an end user a message and they don't respond for like 2 hours and you are no longer watching, so it goes into a black hole. So that is what this workflow solves. Within ScreenConnect, in the admin section, you can go to triggers. If you haven't updated ScreenConnect, install it may say automations. But basically what you do is this is a built-in trigger that detects any message that's sent by an end user to a when there's not a host connected. And then what you can do is you can perform a web request back to a Rewst webhook. And so what we're doing here is we're sending a secret code. The ScreenConnect trigger does not allow you to edit headers, so you have to send a secret in the body and test it yourself. We're sending the message over, the client name, the session ID for the computer name, and then the last user logged on. Then we hop over to the workflow, and it's just a basic post webhook, nothing special. We test if the secret matches, and if it does, we go on. And then with ScreenConnect, we use the get session details endpoint to pull out the events that have occurred on that endpoint, and then we want to filter them down to event type 45, which are messages sent by the technician. So we want to find what technician sent the last message to the end user. So if we found that, we parse out the first name and last name, and then we do a graph lookup for that display name. The reason we're doing that is for us, we use SSO. We don't use internal users in ScreenConnect, so we have to do a query based on the display name. So once we get the user's details out of 365, then we send a one-to-one message in Teams with the message details in an adaptive card. And then that looks like that right there. So anytime a user sends a message to a session where no host is connected, they get a notification over in Teams.
Dustin, you're getting a lot of praise for your use of the ScreenConnect API. How was figuring all this out?
It's a pain. Honestly, that was what took the longest amount of time. It took about an hour to build this, but figuring out the data coming back from ScreenConnect was the biggest hurdle.
That's
Let's
awesome.
see, Tim, it's to a specific user. I have a sub workflow that sends direct messages from the Rewst user to the end user in Teams.
All right. Thank you so much, Dustin. That was awesome. We'll jump over to Jen now. Jen wasn't sure whether she thought she might have been taken down the system last night. So this will be fun. Let's Jen, show us what you've been working on.
I don't think I was. I was messing with it. Everybody else thought the
I'm
same thing.
exposing our conversations.
All right, so I picked Chris W's brain last night about what he was doing in App Platform. because I watched the app platform AMA from the day before, and I wasn't able to get there. And I'm convinced that the W stands for wizard. I just wanted to throw that out there. So he kind of pointed me in the right direction to get access into the GraphQL database for Rewst, I guess. So I built this yesterday, just messing around. And if you know how to get the query actions that happen as you're navigating around Rewst, pretty much all you'd have to do is just look at the query action, copy it, paste it in here. And, I went and added all the query variables as they came up, and you just hit run query, and it comes up with things like your list of workflows, or your user and your organizations that you manage, or whatever it is the query it is that is going to GraphQL in the background. This isn't using any workflows in the background or anything like that. This is just pure JavaScript and an HTML container. That's it. So I thought it was cool. Something neat to play around with, and kind of not have to play around with Postman or Insomnia or, what token do I put here or where. It's just using the built-in cookie that you guys add during my authentication regardless. So.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's such a creative use of the front end. All right, thank you so much. Getting a lot of kudos there. Next up, I just skipped away from my list and then I forgot my order. 1 second here, guys. Next up, we have Aaron. Aaron, are you on now? Maybe.
Sorry, yes, I am.
Perfect. Hi.
Hey, how you doing? Let me pull everything up real fast. Sorry, I was in the middle of something. So something that I made was, we noticed that, especially in Addigy, we have a few clients where machines, the MDM disconnects, or just kind of random periodic issues with Addigy's MDM, and it's super nice to receive alerts about that. However, it's not done by default. So let me share this workflow I made that actually goes ahead and checks that for you. So are you guys seeing the root side of my screen now?
Yes.
All right. So this essentially goes through, it does a universal search, and it pulls the identifiers that we need. MDM has MDM last connected, profile approved, is it stuck? Is the certificate installed? Also pull a few other things that is super useful, like current user, serial number, last online, and hostname. So that way we can identify the machine once it's in the ticket. But it'll pull all of the machines from inside of Addigy there, and it will then check for the machines. Let me double check. I didn't do that somewhere else. Yeah. It then pulls the current date and subtracts, I think it's 3 months from that. So it will only do machines that are online within 3 months. And we send all of those machines to a sub workflow right here that are ran through all devices and after date, online after 3 months before the current date. And it will go ahead. The tricky thing right here was, so if you have a JSON string before a sub workflow and you need it to be a JSON string after the sub workflow, you need to use the toJSON string and the from JSON string. I did not know that. Thank you, Rewst support. But it also inputs right away, last online and whether or not we want to make a ticket about it. This then sends on over here, which is the sub workflow, and it checks, hey, is it within the date range. Is the last online within the date range that we wanted? If it is, then it continues on. If it's not, it's offline for too long and we'll go to the end. So right here is some variable assignment, just for easier tracking and stuff like that, and easier variable calling within the workflow. It just does agent ID, org ID, current user, kind of everything that we exported from before. And this is kind of where all the actual logic and functionality happens. Each of these blocks checks a different type of MDM issue. They're all labeled accordingly. No MDM installed, certificate that should say not installed. Certificate not installed, profile approval failed, MDM client stuck. So those are kind of the four main ones I've seen from Addigy where the MDM stops working. Then that'll send it to this sub workflow. Hey, do we want to make a ticket? If we do, send it over here. As of right now, we don't have it in full production yet. So it just sends an email to whoever that is. As of right now, it's me. But it'll send you an email, and that looks something like this. Let me pull that up. And it looks something like this. What's the error? No MDM installed. What's the current user? What's the serial number? And what's the host name if you were able to grab it? And it'll wrap all that up in a nice little bow of an email, and it'll send it on through, and it does that for each device. I did that so that once we do convert it over to creating tickets or something like that, it is a pretty easy switch over of, hey, I just removed this block, I put in an update or create ticket, and it'll be pretty much all set to go from there. But that's how we're kind of monitoring within Addigy. One general heads up about Addigy, though, that I noticed painstakingly. All the variables will show with a capital starting for the word. So, for example, test config. The T and the C are going to be capital. However, if you go to make an API call, they are not capital. Even though it displays it in the response as being capital letters and everything like that. If you make a request with anything but lowercase letters, it'll just error out. It's not able to find that value. So that is one thing I ran into. Also, if there's any spaces, anything like that, it's always going to be an underscore for Addigy. Any questions, anything like that?
Josh, I'm not sure if that was a question you had there.
I pronounce it nope, and I realize it's pronounced nope. But we choose Addigy because they have a decent amount of features within, as well as we have full auto deployment set up for them. So for a few of our clients, it's as simple as we receive a box from Apple, we never open the box, and we send it back out to the user.
Cool. And then awesome. Yeah, I think Josh said question comment. Isn't there another Addigy issue where the kernel isn't approved? Not sure if that was something that you were needing to answer, but also you can chat in the chat too if that's more of a discussion thing.
I have not actually looked into that much, and that's a really good comment, and I'm going to actually look into that. Thank you. Who was that? Josh?
Josh Weiss, yes. Cool contributions. All right, thank you so much. Next up, John. John Dupre is going to show us some creative CTF hackery that he did using Rewst.
Hello. So you guys are familiar with the CTF, I presume? Well, there was a very fun GitHub-based challenge that I think a lot of people had a good time with. This page may look familiar to you. So pretty innocuous, you know, there's just this registration page. Got some information on here. Most of it's not terribly relevant, but if you get to the bottom, there's a little note here. It says, if you have any issues, be sure to let us know. Now, if you notice, GitHub has a lovely little tab up here called Issues. So that was the kind of a hint to get started on this. You can see some people have tried many times. There's even a helpful template. I'll just go through the process just to kind of show you guys, and we can look at the workflow results. As long as Kelvin hasn't nuked my username. So you can sit here for a second, and should be a comment that comes out afterwards. This is the workflow, by the way. It's pretty complicated. It goes through a bunch of different trees for the different phases of the challenge. Oh, and we have a notification. Hey, look at that. I've been registered. Step 1 is completed. And it says proceed to step 2 and to refer to an employee handbook. But the challenge was actually to break into this thing, so we have to instead reverse engineer the process and figure it out. So if we go into the results, I can kind of show you guys what it did for at least this first step. That's this one right here, I think. Yeah. So let's do a little visualize. And you can see, because I followed the right path, it took me through here, checked my CTF user, which was the trigger there is to actually match it to your CTF user account. It creates an org var. This actually is very helpful because this also contains a token that is generated per user so that nobody can borrow your token to get to the end faster. And then it does a comment, locks the issue. So then step 2 actually requires a little bit of investigation. If you look through the GitHub repository, you can see that there is a issue template, which is the issue that we submitted for the registration. And then the workflow itself has a couple workflows in here. There's one called create PR. Now, you have to kind of understand how GitHub PRs work, and also YAML, which is just awful. Kelvin and I hate YAML very much, but have to use it for GitHub. So anyway, if you look through the code here, there's a little section that says, if this is a fork, then say this must run on the parent repository. So this is telling you that you can't run this. This has to only run here. But it also indicates that there should be a fork. So if I go back here and I fork the repository, something else happens. And this is what fires off step 2, is just by creating the fork, it will kick off another execution in here because I'm using webhooks to trigger stuff. And this one is kind of fun because this will create a special branch just for me. And then if I look here, there should also be a pull request with step 2. Now you can look into it and you can see that there's a comment. It tells you to review the PR. So if you go into the files changed, you can make this a prettier view if you use the rich diff. And you can see that it removed a bunch of text here. And then it says your unique token is this. So you can take this unique token. And then there's a third workflow. You have to enable workflows first. But then there is a submit employee verification workflow. And this is the trigger here. So you type in your username and you paste that token in. and then you hit run workflow. This fires off the final workflow execution and brings us to the end, which gives me access. Yep, there it is. Sometimes the runners are a little slow, so it can take a second. But this last step here, invite to org, actually sends me an invitation to the organization, which if you're watching the workflow execution, look at this. It even says, welcome, go to notification. I think it shows up in notifications, or at least it used to with the invites. But it also sends me an email, and I could just click on the email to do it. If I go back to the workflow, or I have to, yeah, there it is. So if you go back to the organization top level, you can view the invitation and then join. In doing so, it gives you access to a private repository, and it contains a bunch of records. You can kind of poke through them. They're just silly little things that are Guardians of the Galaxy themed. And then the final one is this one, and it has the flag at the end. And that was the answer to the challenge.
Any questions for John? Not. Keep it in here. So today is a little bit of a theme around wizardry. We had some ScreenConnect wizardry. We had some app platforms, some GitHub, lots of wizardry. Let's move on to some Emmy wizardry with Logan.
Always a good time, I hope. All right, let's get this screen shared over here. All right, this workflow is a little bit of a special one for me. So Immybot is, for those of you that don't know, a tool that is really good at deploying workstations. It leans on PowerShell and can do pretty much anything you can think of in a desired state configuration kind of way. So we actually use it mostly as our RMM on this side. We are slowly replacing components of things like Ninja, previously on Central, and even before that, we had Automate, and that got replaced as well. Sorry, I'm just grabbing a link from the Immybot side real quick. Gonna need that in a little bit here. All right, so the overall idea of this workflow is to integrate Rewst into Immybot as a whole. It's mostly in the context of Agent Smith, but if you think about the integration that Rewst has with Immy right now, it is Rewst reaching out to Immybot and telling Immybot what to do. So what if we flip that on its head and did the opposite, have Immybot tell Rewst what to do? So up here, we've got a few different triggers. I'm going to condense these down into one with URL parameters eventually, but the basic concept here is we are establishing webhooks that can trigger this workflow in multiple ways. And that's going to load in the context. Let me get back here, where we know what kind of integration command we're doing. So this might be better to break out into multiple workflows, but I like how it's laid out here. So on the Immybot side, to give some more context to this, there is a big wall of PowerShell. And we are basically defining what we want to happen on the other side of these webhooks. So for example, we have a health check endpoint right here. And it is going to run a function on Immybot that is basically going to go out and respond with a preset type of like HTTP response. So for the health check, basically all we're doing is running a workflow that returns a 200 and hands it back to Immy, telling us that the integration's live. Coming back here, Immybot needs a way to be able to map your customers back and forth. So from your Roost organizations to your Immybot organizations. So in here, we're actually just going to run a very standard list orgs from Roost and then return that list back to Immybot down here. And I'm not going to show the page because it's got a bunch of our organizations on it, but basically what it does is populate a list in Immybot where you can then, drop down and select what Immybot tenant the list is matching with. And from there, that will enable us to get agents. So this is a custom subflow that is, to summarize, going into our Azure tables for Agent Smith. I am leaning on the default Azure table operations flow, and that will get us a list of our agents and a good bit of data about them back out to Immybot. Let's go back here. And then similar story with this. You're going to see a bunch of agents on here. These are all ours at the very top, so it's all good. And yeah, we can see identification logs that are coming through with information about the scripts that are running in the back end, and it's returning OS information, the agent ID, and if I popped open the machines themselves, a bunch of other inventory junk. Trying to hurry along here. The tricky part here is the run command endpoint. So this is how we can actually have Immybot tell Roost to execute PowerShell on endpoints. This is important because Immybot relies on agents. It can either be its own agent, it can be a pre-existing RMM agent, or in this example, one that we're bringing in. So basically all this does is let Immybot run a small command that starts up an ephemeral agent, which actually does all the work. And with that final step completed, you have a fully functioning Immybot and Agent Smith integration. I've got all the scripts and all of the workflows exported in the workflows forum. If anyone wants to try it out and contribute, let me know.
Jim Barry, you have a question?
Yeah, Logan, this is pretty amazing. Is one of the goals, are you planning to let run command be able to maybe have Immy say invoke this workflow that exists by its name in Roost, so that in your list of deployments in Immybot, you could say, I need you to do these Roost actions or whatever that are contained in a workflow?
Almost, not 100%. I'm actually working with their team about a concept where we're going to be able to add either a right-click context to the various agents you get along the top of your computers, or a whole new tab menu where you get basically buttons where you can load in a webhook URL. So you can then click that button and run an action. Being able to do something similar to that with a deployment calling a webhook, very similarly possible. That way you can do it on a schedule.
Excellent.
I think that's all I have for this one.
And I think that people posted the link to the, that might just be the link to the forum. There's the link, I think, to the workflow you were talking about, if I understand which one the Agent Smith enhancements, right? Yes. Cool. Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for that, Logan, and everybody else who shared today. That was awesome. We do have some time for Q&A if Tim wants to lead that for us. Anybody can just chime in whenever they want if they have something to.
Looks like we only have a couple minutes left. So yeah, any quick questions about the future, what's going on, any workflows you're working on, or just random questions that you have for the team?
Reading all the comments here. Brian. Issues in manage all of a sudden.
Does that screenshot look like anything to you, Tim?
Screenshot? Did I miss it?
It's in chat. from Brian.
Oh. Invalid input typically means that there's something wrong with the criteria.
Oh, Jack said it's been reported. We have a ticket open for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lucas. Oh, I see. Entity is not. Okay. Yeah.
Is it bad OPSEC to click on that link, Lucas? Like, I don't know where you're bringing me.
I like the Alabama white barbecue sauce is my favorite. And then second favorite would be anything mustard based. Am I crazy?
It's a safe space.
Okay, I didn't realize that was an actual game. That's hilarious. Adjust Daniel speed.
Let's see what it looks like.
It actually works. You can use the left and right keys to play.
Oh my God.
When prod is the no op.
When prod is the.
Or is the no op? No, I can't tell.
This is the most productive use ever.
Absolutely. Best negative time savings. It outdid the one that we saw earlier.
That's amazing.
And Lucas, you need to demo if he's not here. He'll need to demo this. How we made it. Yeah, it should have a counter on it while you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the option to add that to an argvar for your negative time savings.
This is amazing.
Aaron, this is exactly what you envisioned for the purpose of Roost, right?
3 years ago, if you would have asked me that people would be playing Pong with Daniel with an A's head and Roost.
You'd be like, who's Daniel with an A?
Yeah, I'd be like, who's Daniel with an A? And this is a horrible idea. If no one's watched it yet, we have a great video with Jen posted. She is today's word is wizard. She is an automation wizard. Also, it's on LinkedIn. Just pull up our company. I would leak so we did a new org picker, and then we did another new that we didn't release, and then we did another new org picker. So hopefully this one gets released, right?
Keep changing it every time you sneak it out.
I like the new one, the new one. Also, just a reminder, every week we mess with the engines on a flying plane. And our big thing is we're really working to move off of Kafka to RabbitMQ, which will be amazing for you folks when we're done. One of the biggest things or benefits that you'll get from it is if Jim Barry decides to run 1 million workflows all at the same time, Jen won't notice. And that's, we're super excited. Yeah, so when we're done with that, if you do a will it burn, you only burn yourself, everyone else will be happy.
Smart. It's not a challenge.
Not a challenge. Logan asked, you know what, that's a really good question. He asked, does that mean we can crank up concurrency? You know what? It probably won't be immediately when we go Rabbit, but then we're going to be setting up some, max number of messages per second type deal. And so at that point, we may be able to lift the concurrency limit up some from maybe 10 to 100 or something.
Can't take you down, Logan. Who would give us such awesome Emmy demos?
We'll just have to borrow Alden's instance.
All right. Wait a second. Any future plans for an Axient integration now that their API is open for all? I need to even go look at our integrations list to make sure we're not already integrated with Axient. Can anyone on product or Rewst answer that?
Dan.
No, we don't have Axient. We need to look at the queue of integrations to see. I don't have an issue integrating with Axient. Does the API look any good? Does anyone know?
It's decent.
Here, I do believe that we do have that on the roadmap there. I've been in some meetings there.
Okay.
It's easy.
Awesome.
Documentation
Hey.
is decent.
And hello, Frank. I didn't see you.
I was super late, brother. So you didn't miss me.
Okay.
You didn't miss me.
All right, everybody. It's the top of the hour. We had a record turnout, so I want to thank everyone for showing up. And thank you, everyone, for demoing. Ashley arranged a heck of a number of demos today. So thank you, everyone, for demoing. I know you have to prepare, and it's stressful to do it. At any rate, we'll see you again next week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Toodles.
Meow.